Local government, what does that mean to you? Well, aptly twinned with community development, local government is really your first contact with policymakers. Your issues of road maintenance, streetlight installation, and several others are often resolved by your local government representatives. On the show today, we find out how the next generation is getting involved in the process of local governance. Also between the pages, get the details on shipping your barrels stress-free. Hi there, I'm Adrian Atkinson, and this is Jamaica Magazine. We have those features and more. Stay with us.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, September 24. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has called on the international community to accelerate the mechanisms through which climate financing is delivered to needy developing countries. Though there's been pledges by multilateral banks, institutions, and developed countries, Mr. Holness says accessing climate financing is still too slow and fragmented.
The bottlenecks and gaps in the project investment value chain prevent climate finance from getting to where it is most needed. It is essential, therefore, that we have access to innovative, low-cost, and flexible financing windows to protect our hard-earned economic stability.
Prime Minister Holness was addressing Monday's Climate Action Summit at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. The Prime Minister, along with the heads of government for France and Qatar, have been leading the UN's charge for climate financing. During his presentation, Mr. Holness welcomed several public and private sector initiatives that have sought to increase financing and technical assistance for climate resilience and adaptation. Among them, a commitment to mobilize $40 billion of private sector investments and doubling climate adaptation funding to $18 billion annually by 2025.
Colleagues, there is no silver bullet for climate finance challenges. However, by supporting and promoting existing and new initiatives, we will be taking action that the younger generation is demanding. Remember, they are watching.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has pledged Jamaica's full utilization of a recent United Nations report on the blue economy. Mr. Holness says the report, titled "The Ocean as a Solution to Climate: 5 Opportunities for Action," provides measurable commitments which will afford real opportunities to use the ocean to fight climate change. The report promotes science-based decision-making in protecting and optimizing the use of the ocean.
It is my hope that the report before us will serve as a wake-up call globally. Though not the first report detailing climate risks, it is the first report which creates a measurable roadmap for using the ocean to provide solutions to the climate emergency we face. Jamaica will examine thoroughly and use it to assist with our national development plan.
The Prime Minister was co-hosting a high-level breakfast panel for sustainable ocean economy on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly Monday. The high-level panel aims to build a new shared understanding of the state of the ocean economy and ecology, and to generate a set of recommendations for building a global and sustainable ocean economy. In other news, the 37-megawatt solar plant at Paradise Park in Westmoreland is now complete and will be commissioned before year-end. The over $60 million plant will provide a yearly output of 82,000 megawatt hours, as well as power to the Jamaica Public Service. Owned and operated by 8 Rivers Energy Company, Paradise Solar Park is the largest photovoltaic power plant in Latin America and the Caribbean. Energy Minister Favour Williams says Jamaica's energy landscape has changed significantly over the years, with renewables and natural gas playing a greater role in the country's energy diversification efforts.
With the addition of this new plant, Jamaica will be generating 17% of its electricity from renewable sources, which include wind, solar, and hydro.
Minister Williams was speaking at the recent opening ceremony for Engineers Week 2019 conference in Kingston. Over 18,000 persons have been benefiting from the opening of a new medical laboratory at the Christiana Health Centre in Manchester. The laboratory serves as a central hub for primary care testing for HIV and other diseases and as a resource centre for over 30 health centres in the parish. In addition to providing lab services, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the state is also revising its policies and programs on HIV.
We have identified the vulnerable groups. There is a need to mainstream the conversation around HIV transmission because we believe that over time, the dominant conversation has taken place within subgroups of our population. And the trends are suggesting that transmission or the threat of transmission makes all of us vulnerable.
Officially opened on Friday, the lab was built at a cost of over $20 million through a partnership involving the Ministry, the U.S. Center for Disease Control, and the National Alliance for State and Territorial AIDS Directors, NASTAD. NASTAD has been supporting HIV treatment services at the Mandeville Comprehensive Health Center since 2017. And finally, a 9-member board of trustees has been named to oversee the operations of the Tourism Workers' Pension Scheme. The appointment is for a period of 1 year with immediate effect. Retired banking and insurance executive Richard Powell will serve as chairman, with attorney-at-law Hyacinth Lightburn as deputy. The other members are Daisy Koch, Omar Robinson, Wayne Cummings, Philip Hoffer, Carlton Williams, Eric Crawford, and Danny Roberts. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the Board of Trustees will play a critical role in the management of the scheme, starting with the review of regulations that will govern its operations. The Tourism Minister says the appointment of the Board of Trustees is one step closer to implementing the Tourism Workers' Pension Act. Having been passed in the House of Representatives and the Senate, the Tourism Workers' Pension Scheme recently received the assent of Governor-General Sir Patrick Allen, bringing the law into effect. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Look inside the drum. Those are the Aedes aegypti larvae, the one that causes dengue fever. If all of these larvae mature to be adults, and if the female larva bites someone with the dengue fever, it will acquire the dengue virus. And if that mosquito bites you, you will get it.
Dengue fever?
Yes. Help prevent the spread of dengue.
Clean up your home and community.
Destroy mosquito breeding sites.
Protect yourself from mosquito bites. Prevent dengue fever.
Next, the latest happenings out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica completes final IMF review. Clarendon and St. Catherine states of emergency extended until October 19, and the island pays final respects to Dr. Kenbaugh. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Anthony Morgan. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is now in the U.S. state of New York, representing Jamaica's interests at the United Nations Climate Action Summit at the UN General Assembly. Mr. Holness, who left the island on Saturday, will return on October 1. On Sunday, ahead of the September 23 UN Climate Action Summit, the Prime Minister hosted a high-level luncheon under the theme "An Urgent Call for Countries to Partner for Climate Action." The event, which sought to increase financial support for the Green Climate Fund, was jointly hosted by Norway's Prime Minister Erna Solberg. At the luncheon, several countries pledged to double their financial commitment to amass $100 billion in climate finance to help states develop climate resilience and adaptation.
I am confident that our fund will continue to respond to the needs and ambitions of developing countries, but we need to place it in a position to effectively do so.
Mr. Holness also spoke at the second meeting of the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy. He used the opportunity to thank the panel for agreeing with Jamaica to establish a working group to examine leadership and action on sustainable tourism. Mr. Holness also pledged to utilize the recently crafted report for a sustainable ocean economy.
Though not the first report detailing climate risks, it is the first report which creates a measurable roadmap for using the ocean to provide solutions to the climate emergency.
The real test after this, with the IMF out of the room in some ways, is whether or not we can maintain and carry through the fiscal discipline that we have committed to and successfully committed to over the last 10 years. My answer to that is yes, we can and we will.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness last Wednesday at a press briefing to close out the island's precautionary standby arrangement with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The island completed its sixth and final review, which was carried out between September 9 and 19. Findings will now go to the IMF Executive Board for final approval, making a total of $1.63 billion accessible to the country.
We have worked with transparency. We have worked diligently to ensure that we meet all the targets that we have set for ourselves. And this is a major achievement in our political economy and in our development generally.
Jamaica's precautionary standby arrangement with the IMF started in 2016, replacing a previous 4-year extended fund facility. The current program is scheduled to officially end on November 8. Before the IMF engagement, the Prime Minister was in Parliament on Tuesday, seeking an extension of the St. Catherine and Clarendon states of public emergency. Mr. Holness revealed that between January 1 to September 16, 948 murders and 908 incidents of shootings were recorded across all 19 police divisions. But since the September 5 introduction of the states of public emergency in St. Catherine and Clarendon, murders and shootings have declined by 73%. Mr. Holness also disclosed that since the enhanced security measure was imposed, 100 persons have been arrested and charged for various offences in the parishes.
The progress made within these police divisions must be allowed to continue. Mr. Speaker, we are fully committed to supporting our security forces as they seek to secure the peaceful existence, quality of life, and life itself for Jamaicans.
Though a 90-day extension was sought, the House only approved a 1-month extension of the state of emergency to October 19. The Prime Minister meanwhile announced that the opening hours for businesses operating in the St. Catherine and Clarendon SOEs have been extended. Mr. Holness said the extensions followed consultations with the security forces and the business communities in the parishes. Closing times have been lengthened from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. for certain businesses. Similar adjustments have been made in the Westmoreland, Hanover and St. James SOEs, moving closing times to 12 p.m. for some businesses.
There's one thing that we are clear on. The right to life supersedes every other right. There is no balancing saving one life with rent, loss of revenue. There's no balance there. So, Mr. Speaker, we find that this measure of the state of public emergency is very effective. We find that it has worked to save lives.
Back at Jamaica House Thursday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed incoming U.S. Ambassador, His Excellency Donald Tapia. The two spoke of strengthening the long-standing relationship and collaboration between both countries. Discussions also centered on managing climate events such as hurricanes, containing murders, and stemming the flow of light arms in the region. Over at his office, the Prime Minister held talks with a delegation from New Day Aluminum Holdings, parent company of Noranda Bauxite. Thursday also saw Prime Minister Holness saying his final farewell to the late former Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Ken Baugh. The 78-year-old passed away on September 1. Scores turned up at the University Chapel at Mona to remember Dr. Baugh, who Mr. Holness hailed as a veritable patriot who, while being a politician, was never political. A dedicated and uncompromising servant of Jamaica, Dr. Baugh is also remembered as one of the most stabilizing forces in Jamaican politics. And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
The Ministry of Local Government and Community Development has engaged the nation's youth to assist with data collection in the various areas of its work. During the summer and ensuing weeks, young persons across the country are employed to record the number of street lights, businesses, and also street people existing within communities. This data assists the ministry with identifying areas in need of improvement. Take a look.
The Youth Summer Employment Program has been one of the best programs, yes, one of the best programs that has been introduced to us as young people of Jamaica. In the summer of 2017, I was introduced to the program by my counselor. And when he introduced it to me, I thought it was any normal summer job, sitting down inside the office, doing the filing. But to my surprise, the tasks given, they were not my expectations. As I would work towards community development through streetlight audits, and we'd also do indigent person listing.
We were out there going around checking light posts and so forth, and going around to barber shop, hairdressing and so forth, to find out how best they are coping there, and getting some information regarding taxes and so forth.
In going into these communities, we were tasked the jobs of course, conducting a survey to the persons on the street, asking them about the area with regards to water, light, and also criminal activities. We were also to conduct a survey of the street lights, into finding out which one is working during the day, which is not supposed to happen, which one is not working during the night, which is also not supposed to happen, and which one does not work at all. Another task that we were granting is going to each shops and ensuring that they're registered. But we found a bit of trouble when we went to certain shops because persons were a bit timid to state whether or not they were registered. Possibly because they were afraid if their shop to be closed down or such.
We started with 2,700. We went up to 3,500 last year, and we are looking close to 4,000 young people in this year. The success of the program speaks for itself. The government was able this year to pay off the outstanding arrears of 7 billion Jamaican dollars to the Jamaica Public Service, and now we are debt-free because of the contribution of the youth service workers in providing the data that was required. Another area where we have seen improved revenue collections was in the area of trade license. Again, young people right across the country went out, collect the data, where because of your efforts, the local authorities was able to collect in excess of $230 million in the last financial year.
Local government, to me, is really the arm of the government that looks towards a more holistic developmental approach for communities. So whereas central government would focus on the broad running of a country, the local government in and of itself ensures that the communities are actually kept up, the communities are developed, that persons within the community are developed.
The local government is really a way of assisting persons that are within the community, persons who are a bit needy, persons who cannot help themselves.
We retain some 200 of you who are now working full-time within the municipalities across the country. We intend this year to do the same, another 200 of you. The 200 of you that will be retained, we're not just going to put you into the MCs just like that. We're going to put you through a certification program through the Art Trust NTA. We are going further. We have identified 2 areas where that skill set within local government is lacking: in urban planning and in the area of technical competence. It is the intention of the ministry to offer 6 scholarships in the 2 discipline areas. And these scholarships will cost some 350,000 Jamaican dollars in urban planning and technical services. We need those services in local government.
So many wish they could visit our shores. We live where they vacation. Brand Jamaica beckons all from the 4 corners of the earth.
Well, as a Jamaican, I have great pride in selling it. Your pride that you sell Jamaica with is something that it rolls off. Jamaica has so much to offer, and every time I have the privilege of bringing an executive down to Jamaica, an executive from an airline or a tour operator or a travel agency, and you take them across the country, the pride that they said, wow, I can't imagine, especially when it's their first time. Wow, I love this.
Build it. Cherish it. Our wealth is Brand Jamaica.
The Jamaica Customs Agency has embarked on an island-wide public education program to inform residents of how best to ship their barrels, goods or parcels. Their most recent stop was in St. Mary. Next, highlights from that customs community meeting.
Today I'm looking forward to learn why is it that some things that are so cheap overseas and go through the customs there, when they come to Jamaica, why is it so dear to clear?
Well, I'm looking forward to learning a lot about the various regulations and stuff.
I am looking forward to learning how is it that as an individual you can clear items through customs, and I also want to know how is it that a TCC applies to customs and how it helps us as individuals.
Scores of eager residents like these 3 turned out to the St. Mary's Anglican Church in Port Maria on Thursday, June 27, 2019. The occasion, Customs Meets the Community, St. Mary Engagement.
The Jamaica Customs Agency recognizes that strong partnerships with our stakeholders through public education and other awareness-building initiatives can have a transformational impact on compliance.
With this in mind, for this session, the JCU collaborated with the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA to provide pertinent information on the ban on plastic items.
So we're offering information on the ban itself, about alternatives, and the negative effects of single-use plastics on the environment. So we have to get people aware and make them environmental stewards.
And if by now you're not aware, here are a few items you can use instead of plastic.
You have paper plates and paper bowls. You have boxes made out of sugarcane trash or bagasse. you have cardboard boxes, you have, instead of plastic drinking straws, you have cardboard straws, bamboo straws, and this is very strong and a favorite. And of course, you have the reusable items. So instead of a plastic drinking bottle, you can use a reusable bottle instead. So these are the things that you can utilize instead of plastics.
The Jamaica Customs Agency joins with the National Environment and Planning Agency to encourage every Jamaican to refuse and reuse, ultimately reducing dependence on single-use plastics. Other border regulatory agencies that were also at the St. Mary Parish engagement were the Plant Quarantine Unit and the Pesticides Control Authority. Since the inception of the Customs Meets the Community initiative, the Jamaica Customs Agency has been collaborating with the Social Development Commission in executing its parish engagements. The SDC assists the JCA with mobilizing efforts, as well as in providing pertinent information on parish demographics, which helps the JCA to customize the presentations done at each location. And what is an engagement session without audience interaction?
You mentioned about the yellow form, and if a barrel or something comes in at custom, you get $500. Now my question is, what happens if the barrel is from door to door? Right? Does that $500 still apply to the individual?
The $500 is still applicable if you're clearing a door-to-door shipment. What you do is ensure that the information is communicated to the shipping agent. They might ask you to come in to present your passport to them and so on, so that they will do the clearance on your behalf.
My question is, we're a community-based group, and sometimes we have friends in America or different countries that send us stuff. How do we get a waiver to be able to clear our stuff without cost?
That was something of the past. What is required of you now as a benevolent organization is that you be registered as a charity with the Department of Cooperatives and Friendly Societies.
Okay.
What Customs relies on at the point of clearance is that certificate.
The Jamaica Customs Agency is really on a drive to change the perception and also to create an image, one that is customer-centric, that we're here to serve and that we're improving our services.
That wraps another successful parish engagement session by the Jamaica Customs Agency. The entity will continue its journey throughout the length and breadth of Jamaica by meeting their customers where they are.
We've come to the end of our show for today. Catch us again tomorrow on this station. As we go, be reminded to send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at gis.gov.jm. You may also connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and of course, there's Instagram. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.